researcher at the University of Umeå and ICE-lab in Sweden. I study macroevolution, especially using phylogenetic methods and present-day extant species. So that means using present-day species and the family trees of species, we can make inferences about processes that have been operating in the distant past. And we can also study characters that you could not, or with only very much effort, get from fossil data. For example, the expression of genes throughout the genome, or the number of gene copies in the genome for particular kinds of processes. And we can effectively study those processes using present-day species and these modern statistical phylogenetic methods. Macroevolution refers to the evolution of biological organisms over long periods of time and at a level that typically exceeds the level of a single species. So groups of species evolving over millions of years typically. Molecular genetics provides us with lots of information that was previously not accessible for long-term inference. So molecular studies first provide us with the analysis of DNA sequences and protein sequences that we need to construct the phylogenetic trees of species. That means to figure out which species are closely related, which are more distantly related. And second, molecular genetics also provides us with information about the processes that go on within organisms. These processes often have signs of deep history, and by using modern laboratory methods we can measure these processes and subsequently make inferences about how they evolved. Punctuated equilibrium refers to the theory that in established species the internal processes as well as the relation of the species with its external environment are in a state of equilibrium. And when a new species emerges, this state of equilibrium would be perturbed, would be punctuated, after which a new equilibrium is relatively rapidly reached. And this could explain why species in the fossil record often appear relatively static, relatively unchanged for long periods of time, whereas species are significantly differentiated immediately when they appear in the fossil record. This theory was made famous by Niles Eldredge and Stephen Jay Gould in the early 1970s, but its roots go much further back because, for example, Simpson wrote about Equilibria and established species getting perturbed already in his famous book Tempo and Mode in Evolution. And even Hugh Falconer wrote questions along the same line to Charles Darwin soon after Darwin published the first edition of his Origin of Species. The concept of stasis and equilibrium is defined only in relation to each other. A particular character may be evolving much more quickly than another character. For example, body mass may evolve relatively quickly compared to body temperature in homeotherm mammals, but compared to the changes in body mass that are observed during speciation, even body mass could be argued to be in stasis. At the same time, one should recognize that the distinction between gradual evolution over time and stasis is not an absolute one. Presumably, there is a gradient from relatively low rates of evolution to relatively rapid rates of evolution, and patterns of clear stasis punctuated with rapid and immediate change to patterns where evolution is largely gradual and where speciation does not present a perturbation of the evolutionary process. It is widely assumed that biological organisms are particularly well adapted to their natural environment. Recently I have been analyzing rates of body size evolution in mammals and birds, it is striking that mammals evolve substantially more rapidly than birds. And there exist a number of explanations why that would be the case. What our results suggest is that the explanation for the relatively rapid evolution of mammals is their high speciation and extinction rate. Mammals, for perhaps obvious reasons of not being able to fly, are on average more subdivided than birds are at the species level. And they certainly do show higher speciation and also extinction rates. Now, every time a new species emerges, it is somewhat different, but strikingly by approximately the same amount as bird species change when they emerge. So over time, the rates of evolution in both mammals and birds, the rates of morphological evolution, seem to be approximately similar, but mammals diversify at a much higher rate. And this indicates that these species are not particularly well adapted to their natural environment. It rather suggests that mature evolution is an autonomous process that is driven by internal factors in these organisms, that many of the changes that appear are not adaptation to the environment, but perhaps adaptation of body parts to each other. You could compare this to a human organization where certain rules apply, for example, laws apply in a country. We do not rewrite these laws all the time, but once we do rewrite a law, there is many implications that just emerge from one bigger rule being rewritten, and not from any need to adjust just this little aspect of it to the environment. It seems that biological organisms experience a certain kind of slowness, just like human organizations do.